In 1968, a man named Myung-bak helped bury a river. He was chief executive officer of Hyundai Engineering and Construction at the time. His company poured the concrete, raised the decks, and built a 6-lane elevated highway over the Cheonggyecheon stream in downtown Seoul. The river disappeared under 5.8 kilometers of infrastructure, 168,000 cars a day. Progress. In 2002, Myung-bak ran for mayor of Seoul. His campaign promise was simple: tear down the highway he had helped build, dig up the concrete, and restore the river underneath. Traffic engineers warned the city would seize up, and business owners said it would wipe out the local economy. His political opponents called it the most irresponsible urban proposal in Korean history. 168,000 cars a day could not simply vanish. He won with 53% of the vote. On Inauguration Day, he started demolition. 3 years later, where the highway had been, a river ran through the center of Seoul. And in that river, in water that had been sealed under concrete for 46 years, fish were rising to the surface. Construction started in July 2003 with 2,000 workers and 600 machines. The elevated highway came down in sections, each one cut, lifted, and hauled away while the city moved around it. The noise was extraordinary. Central Seoul, one of the densest urban environments on Earth, was running a full demolition project across 5.8 kilometers, while 10 million people went about their day around the barriers. When the highway was gone, the crews started digging. The original stream bed was 5 meters down. It had been buried in 1958, sealed under concrete in 1968, and then covered by 3 decades of urban accumulation. Nobody on the project had ever seen it. Most of the engineers were born after it went under. In the spring of 2004, an excavator broke through the last layer and hit gravel, river gravel, rounded, sorted by current, the kind that forms when water moves over stone for a long time. The original bed of the Cheonggyecheon, not filled, not contaminated, just covered, was sitting there exactly where the river had left it in 1958. The foreman stopped the machine. He called the site engineer over. They looked at it for a while without saying anything. The river had been under the city the entire time, waiting. To understand what the highway had done to Seoul, you have to look at what nobody was measuring. The 168,000 cars were counted. That number was in every transport report, every budget meeting, every argument against the demolition. It was the headline figure. What was not in the reports was the temperature. A 6-lane elevated highway accumulates heat. It absorbs solar radiation through the day and radiates it back at night. It blocks vertical air circulation. It prevents the ground below from ever evaporating moisture. The Cheonggyecheon district ran 2.2 degrees Celsius hotter than the Seoul average, year-round. That number had been measured by weather stations. Nobody had connected it to the structure above. The AIR was worse. 168,000 vehicles in an enclosed corridor, daily, for decades. Particulate matter in the neighborhood ran at 74 micrograms per cubic meter. A health survey found that people living and working alongside the highway were more than twice as likely to have respiratory disease as people elsewhere in the city. That study existed. It was cited in academic journals. It was not part of the political conversation about the highway. And the river underneath. By the time it was buried, the Cheonggyecheon had already been used as a sewer for 30 years. Industrial waste, domestic runoff, whatever the surrounding neighborhoods did not want. The decision to concrete it over in 1958 was partly a sanitation measure. The river was a health risk, open and exposed in the center of a rapidly industrializing city. Covering it was, in that context, logical. When the excavators went down in 2004, this is what they found: 4 fish species, 6 bird species, 15 insect species, and 62 plant species. In 5.8 kilometers of urban waterway, that was what decades of concrete and exhaust had left. The highway had been built to solve a problem. It had created several others that nobody was adding to the bill. The transport engineers who opposed the project were not wrong about the numbers. They were wrong about what the numbers meant. Their models were built on a simple assumption: roads create demand, and demand is fixed. If you remove a road carrying 168,000 vehicles, those vehicles go somewhere else. The surrounding network absorbs the load. Congestion increases, the city slows. That is how road removal had worked in every case they had studied. It was a reasonable extrapolation. What their models did not include was the possibility that a significant number of those 168,000 drivers would stop driving, not reroute, not shift to a different time of day, just stop and take a bus instead. The Seoul metropolitan government announced alongside the demolition a 14.5-kilometer bus rapid transit corridor that would cut automobile journey times through the center of the city. The bus rapid transit was fast, frequent, and direct. The highway removal and the transit improvement happened simultaneously. The business owners were harder to address. The Seoul government held over 4,200 meetings with local commercial associations before construction started. Some businesses were relocated, some received compensation. Many remained unconvinced. The markets and workshops that had operated under the highway's shade for decades did not want to leave, and several fought the project in court. Lee Myung-bak's opponents in the 2002 election had made the project's cost a centerpiece of their campaign, estimated at the equivalent of $360 million for a river in a city that had urgent needs elsewhere. It was a reasonable objection. Demolition started anyway, and the city watched to see if the traffic predictions would come true. The Cheonggyecheon stream restoration opened to the public in October 2005. In the weeks that followed, Seoul's transport monitoring data came back with a number that the engineers had not modeled. Traffic congestion in central Seoul had dropped by 2.3%, not increased. Dropped. The 168,000 daily vehicles had not materialized on surrounding streets. A portion had rerouted. A larger portion than anyone predicted had switched to the new bus rapid transit system. Some had changed when they traveled. A measurable fraction had simply stopped making the trip. The demand that transport models had treated as fixed had turned out to be elastic, adjustable, responsive to alternatives that had not existed before. The transport engineers' models had been technically correct about road capacity. They had been wrong about human behavior. The ecological data was stranger. Within weeks of the stream opening, fish were observed in the water. Cheonggyecheon's current in 2005 was entirely artificial, with water pumped from the Han River and treated subway drainage, flowing through a reconstructed channel with engineered banks and planted vegetation. Nothing about it was natural in the strict sense. The flow rate was controlled. The water level was maintained at 40 centimeters. The stream bed was laid by hand. The fish did not seem to notice. Species from the Han River had followed the water upstream through the pump infrastructure and into the restored channel. Birds that had overflown this stretch of Seoul for decades without stopping began landing in the vegetation. Insects arrived before the plants had fully established. The corridor was artificial. The life that came to it was not. Both things, traffic and ecology, had behaved in ways the models said they should not, and they had done it at the same time. The speed of the ecological recovery and the scale of what happened to the city's temperature and air makes more sense when you stop looking at the project as a single intervention and start looking at it as the simultaneous removal of three separate blocks. The first block was thermal, An elevated highway over a city street creates a heat trap. Concrete and asphalt absorb solar energy through the day and release it at night. The structure above prevents vertical air movement. There is no evaporation from soil or water because the surface underneath is sealed. The result is a localized urban heat island sitting on top of the actual urban heat island. When the highway was removed and a moving stream took its place, the thermal dynamics of that corridor reversed. Water evaporates, evaporation cools. Moving air carries the cooling effect outward. The temperature along the Cheonggyecheon dropped by between 3.3 and 5.9 degrees Celsius, compared with parallel streets located 4 to 7 blocks away. On a hot Seoul summer day, that difference is not subtle. It is the difference between being outside and not being outside. The second block was aerodynamic. The elevated structure had acted as a physical barrier to east-west air movement through the center of the city. Its removal opened a 5.8-kilometer wind corridor. Average wind speeds in the area increased by between 2.2 and 7.8%. That moving air carried seeds, spores, and insects, the first colonizers of any new habitat, into a corridor that had been functionally dead for decades. The third block was connectivity. Urban ecology runs on corridors. A species that cannot move cannot recolonize. An isolated patch of habitat, no matter how good, fills only with whatever already lives there. The Cheonggyecheon created 5.8 kilometers of connected habitat threading through the center of one of the world's most densely built cities, linking parks, the Han River, and peripheral green spaces that had previously been separated by impermeable urban fabric. The 639% increase in species diversity between 2003 and 2008 was not the result of one thing going right. It was the result of 3 things that had been wrong for 35 years being fixed simultaneously. Particulate air pollution in the district fell from 74 to 48 micrograms per cubic meter, a 35% reduction. The same cars were driving in Seoul, but the highway carrying them through the center of the city was gone. 20 years after the restoration, the numbers are not contested. 4 fish species became 25. 6 bird species became 36. 15 insect species became 192. 62 plant species became 308. Total recorded species rose from 98 to 639, a 639% increase measured by the city's environmental monitoring program between 2003 and 2008, and confirmed in subsequent surveys. 500,000 people visit the Cheonggyecheon corridor every week. In a city of 10 million people, it has become one of the most used public spaces in the country, in the exact location that 20 years ago was described as one of the most hostile to pedestrians. Particulate air pollution in the corridor dropped 35%. The neighborhood temperature fell enough to be felt while walking through it. The businesses that had fought the project the hardest eventually moved back, some of them into premises overlooking a river rather than a highway underpass. Many of those businesses have returned to a very different city center ecology. Lee Myung-bak was elected president of South Korea in 2008. The Cheonggyecheon restoration was part of his national profile. The man who had built the highway, then demolished it, then fixed what was underneath it, became head of state. Nearly 100 other elevated highways in South Korea were subsequently scheduled for removal. Delegations from cities across Asia, Europe, and North America came to Seoul to study the project. The Cheonggyecheon became the reference case for urban highway removal worldwide. There is one other detail worth mentioning. The politicians who had most publicly fought the project in the lead-up to the 2002 election went on to have difficult careers. Several faced corruption investigations. One was imprisoned. The people of Seoul began calling it the Cheonggyecheon curse, the idea that the river, once uncovered, had a long memory for those who had tried to keep it buried. This is not a scientific observation. It is the kind of thing cities say about rivers when they get them back. There is something about the detail of the gravel that I keep coming back to. When the excavators broke through in the spring of 2004, 5 meters below the streets of downtown Seoul, they found the original riverbed intact. Rounded gravel, sorted by current, undisturbed since 1958. The river had not been destroyed. It had been covered. The bed, the substrate, the physical memory of how the water had moved, all of it was preserved under the concrete, waiting for a reason to be relevant again. There was no explanation for why the gravel was still there in usable condition after 46 years. It just was. Lee Myung-bak never gave a detailed public account of what changed his mind between 1968 and 2002. The man who signed off on burying the river became the man who dug it up. He once said in a brief reference to it that he had seen what the highway had become: the congestion, the pollution, the degraded neighborhood around it, and concluded that the cost had been higher than the benefit. That is as close as the record gets to an explanation. What Seoul proved is not that cities should remove all their highways. Some highways are doing what highways are supposed to do, and the math works out. What Seoul proved is that the original math on the Cheonggyecheon had been incomplete. The 168,000 cars were counted. The temperature, the air quality, the health of the people alongside it, the river under it, the species that could not exist because of it. None of that was in the original ledger. It was all real, and it was all left out. There are several hundred buried rivers in cities around the world. London has over 20. The Fleet, the Westbourne, the Tyburn, running under streets and tube lines sealed since the 19th century. Paris has the Bièvre. New York has Minetta Brook, still flowing under Greenwich Village basements. Most were buried for the same reasons as the Cheonggyecheon: sanitation, flood control, space for roads. The decisions made sense at the time. The ledger was just incomplete. The gravel is still there, under the concrete. It has been waiting.